Hi, this is Sharmin here. In this video, I'm going to talk about African societies and the beginning of the Atlantic slave trade. All right, so let's get started. So here is a word meaning that is auction, a public sale in which property is sold to the highest bidder. Enslaver, someone who captures or holds another person for purposes of slavery, such as a plantation, owner, environment, everything that surrounds a given area. Middle passes, the voyage of ships carrying enslaved Africans across the Atlantic Ocean from West Africa to the West Indies and the American continents. Overseas, a person who was in charge of the work of enslaved people and who could punish them for disobeying him. So guys, this is vocabulary activities. You can find the answer previous the word meaning. There is all the answer like a number one, the voyage of ships carrying enslaved Africans across the Atlantic Ocean from West Africa to the West Indies and the American continents was the answer. Number two, and dash was a public sale in which people who were enslaved were sold to the highest bidders. Number three, and dash was someone who captured or held another person for purposes of slavery. So this is the all the answer is here. If you know the word meaning, then you can get the answer here. All right. So let's talk about the Atlantic slave trade. Many of the British colonies used the labor of enslaved West African people. Southern colonies with large farms depended on enslaved people to grow crops. People in West Africa had many different ways of life. Some worked as farmers in villages, while others worked as traders and lived in cities. Family was important to many West African cultures. They also spoke many languages, practiced different religions, and told tales and fables to one another. So, starting in the late 14th, as Portuguese traders traveled in West Africa, they brought guns and other goods with them. Leaders in West Africa wanted these things in exchange for these goods. The leaders enslaved and sold people. So it was a common to enslave people during this time in history in many parts of the world. If land was conquered, the people that lived there were sometimes enslaved too. Early West African societies, West Africa stretches from modern day Mauritania to the Democratic Republic of the Congo. It encompasses lush rainforest along the equator, savannas on either side of the forest, and much drier land to the north until about 6000 CE. So most Africans living in this area were hunter-gatherers. In the driest areas, herders maintained sheep, goats, cattle, or camels. In the more heavily wooded area near the equator, farmers raised yams, palm products, or plantain and plantains. The savanna areas yielded crops including rice, millet, and sorghum. So Africans organized their societies around the family until the and gold supply often dictated which society held the most power until the start of the Atlantic slave trade. So the beginning of the Atlantic slave trade in the late 14th disrupted African societal structure as European infiltrated the West African coastline, drawing people from the center of the continent to be sold into slavery. So, new sugar and tobacco plantations in the Americas and Caribbean high, heightened the demand for enslaved people, ultimately forcing a total of 12.5 million Africans across the Atlantic and into slavery. Atlantic slave trade, many Europeans justified their racist actions by claiming that West Africans were meant to be enslaved and serve them. It was not long before other European countries began likewise enslaving Africans. The British enslaved African people and sent them to their uh, colonies in North America. Newly enslaved Africans were forced to march across Africa to the western coast. They were put on ships and endured harsh conditions as they crossed the Atlantic Ocean. Those who served those who survived were sold and auctioned off to plantations owners in North America. They were forced to work in miserable conditions. So here is a question, guys. That is the Three Sisters farming was an agricultural systems of companions planting innovated by the Iroquois speaking people of the Northwest. Farmers planted corn, beans, and squash together. What's that? That is the three things: corn, beans, and squash. So the beans used the corn stalks as a trellis to grow on, but how did beans benefit the other two plants in the system? So here's an obviously that is the bacteria on the roots of beans fix nitrogen from the atmosphere into the soil and fertilizing the earth for the benefit of the corn and squash. With soil fertilization provided by the bean roots, corn and squash could grow easily without any added fertilizer or labor. Another question, why is it important that the Three Sisters agricultural system combine beans, corn, and squash? So that is Iroquois or Cherokee called corn, bean, and squash the Three Sisters because they nurture each other like family when planted together. These agriculturalists placed corn in small hills, planting beans around them and interspersing squash throughout of the field. That's interesting. Number five, around 7,000 years ago, agriculture emerged in Mesoamerica, including the demo, sorry, domestication of maize, beans, and squash, causing major changes in the plants that people cultivated. Three Sisters agriculture had spread across Mexico by 3,500 years ago, though they originated at different times. Why was this method of planting important? So that is answer is these three crops mutually supported each other's growth, a system that spread from present day Mexico northward into the present day American Southwest. The sharing of this valuable agricultural information sustained communities in present day Mexico and the present day American Southwest for centuries before the arrival of Europeans. Here's another question. Why did the Sacs live in structures like this depicted in the image? So this is the many types of Sacs people lived in teepees because they suited this lifestyle and the environment they lived in. The teepee was uniquely suited to a semi-nomadic existence on the American Great Plains. Tepees could be taken down and set up very quickly. So yeah, so guys, that's all for today. Thank you so much for watching my video and see you soon with another new video. Keep watching, keep practicing, and good luck your history test. Thank you so much, guys.